But let's move on now. Let's jump into the Milwaukee Bucks talk, and as Alice Cooper says in Wayne's World, Milwaukee, as they used to pronounce it. I think I messed up that pronunciation. But anyways, Bucks fired Jason Kidd. I think it was 4 days ago, 3 days ago. It was Monday? Was it Monday or Tuesday?
Seems so long ago.
Monday or Tuesday, they fired Jason Kidd. And we've talked about this before. We've mentioned that this was not shocking. I said it on Twitter. Mm-hmm. We thought he should have been fired. He just looked lost out there. Late in game situations, wasn't making the right moves, makes the move for Giannis to be point guard, but he really doesn't call any plays around him. He doesn't really give him the right offense to work in. And this team defensively was one of the worst in the league. There was nothing positive that Jason Kidd was bringing this team outside of the fact that the players liked him. Yep. So looking at this, you guys aren't shocked, right?
No, it was actually, I'm going to correct myself, from Wet Boys, it was 2 years ago. So after the 2015-2016 season that we were discussing, like, oh, he should probably be fired because they were a 33-win team, 5th in the division, didn't make the playoffs, and then last year happened.
Okay. So
fair enough.
There you go. But you're not shocked by this?
No, not at all. I mean, the thing with Jason Kidd that I look at is it's a simple question. Is he the coach that you envision to win the finals with? The answer is no. So that's why I'm not shocked by this, because I didn't see Jason Kidd as the coach to be there if the Bucks ever win the finals.
Well, Dave, you're not shocked by this either.
Not even a little.
And looking at it, I mean, obviously Giannis is a little heartbroken by it, tried to save Jason Kidd's job. Is that worrisome in the fact that your star player, the guy that you're supposed to be building your franchise around, that Milwaukee fans were mad at us yelling? We were saying that, hey, there's a possibility he might leave when his contract comes up. Milwaukee fans got pissed at us for saying, I mean, this is what pushes a star player out, is getting rid of his coach.
No, and that's fair, and maybe we might have, gone a little overboard, but to be fair, it was all hypotheticals.
It was all hypothetical. We weren't saying he's gone. Yeah. We were saying, hey, maybe if this guy who is a freak of nature, who is an absolute star in this league, wants to become a bigger star, he shouldn't be playing in Milwaukee, whether if he loves Milwaukee or not, because a place like New York, LA, is going to help you become a star. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to trash Milwaukee, but it's Chicago North. I mean, like, that's all it is. So and so now getting rid of your
goes, though,
but now getting rid of your at least your player's coach. This is something that could cause a rift between the front office and the player.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand, where he's coming from, because this was like his first head coach that he attached to. He definitely learned under him, and that's one of the things you can't really knock on him for, is player development seemed to go pretty well under him. Mm-hmm. The problem was, like you said, setting his team up for success in game situations, knowing how to best use the talent on the court.
Well, I don't even know about that.
No, I'm saying that's where he lacked.
Oh, okay.
His thing was player development. Mm-hmm. He seemed to understand that here's how I can grow some players and have them hopefully perform better individually. The problem is he couldn't quite make the pieces fit. He never called the right place. He never set them up in successful situations, especially to close out games. So it's really kind of disappointing, because again, that was the main guy that Giannis had the attachment with. Like, he was really young when he came over, and that's the coach he connected with. So yes, I could see where it's going bad for him, but I think that's every young player and like their first main head coach that they get stuck with. I think they just have a special relationship. I'm not super worried about Giannis being like, you got rid of my guy, like I'm gonna fucking take over the team and go full diva on you if you don't bring in the next player's coach guy for me. I think it's more so like, I really wish we would have done this in a better way, where I'm not blindsided, he's not blindsided, and like we maybe have a better discussion around it.
Well, apparently Woj just dropping bombs too quickly, and Jason Kidd found out through Twitter, or at least Twitter found out before Jason Kidd knew that he was fired. So I mean, obviously every firing could probably be handled in a better way, but now it's really on Milwaukee's front office to really mend that relationship and make sure Giannis feels right. But now the discussion moves into, because they're not going to they're not going to hire a coach midseason. Right now they currently sit at 24-22, and they have a 10-point lead over Brooklyn with just getting out of the third quarter. So going into the fourth quarter, they have a 10-point lead over Brooklyn. So most likely they're going to be 25-22 coming out of this Brooklyn game. But what they announced today, I believe, was that they're going to keep interim head coach Joe Prunty on through the rest of the season. So they won't be looking for a new head coach until the offseason. And people were bringing up, you got to jump on Fizdale right away. You got to jump on, hey, maybe we bring out David Blatt. I mean, there's talks about a new head coach, and this is what the whole discussion is based around, is How do you build around Giannis? And let's start at least with the coach and Ricky. Is there a name out there that you think fits well with this Milwaukee Bucks?
There's not an exact name that I'm thinking of. And the thing that I relate it to is I'm going to relate this over to the NFL.
Yeah.
You're in a LA Rams situation where, hey, we fired our coach in the middle of the season. Let's vet some guys and let's get the list together and start doing our homework on some guys while we have the interim head coach doing his job. You basically have a head start. I know last NBA season we were like, really? No one got fired at the end of the season?
Yeah, that was shocking.
Nobody? Like, you and the
Didn't
Grizzlies.
take long to change.
You and the Grizzlies are the
3
only
games.
2 teams right now that are looking for head coaches at the end of this year.
The Suns.
And the
Jay
Suns.
Triano.
Yeah.
But the main part is vet your guys now. And the reason why I like this firing is because if you think back to June of 2016, they gave Jason Kidd an extension through the 2019-2020 season.
Yep.
So that would put him where, let's say you go through that entire extension and then you get rid of him, then you've got Giannis for 1 more year before he's a free agent. This way you can say, hey, Giannis, I know you love Jason Kidd, but we're going to bring in a guy who's better for this team, and then hopefully that guy is better. You get 1, 2, 3 seasons of him to bond with this coach so that when he is a free agent, he wants to stay rather than, well, fuck this new guy. It's the first year we're not gelling. I'm gone.
Well, and again, I think we all agree that it was the right time. I mean, it probably would have been the right time last year, or at least even early on in the season. I mean, Jason Kidd did nothing spectacular on the court. He didn't do anything scheme wise, offensively and defensively,
except for bumping into people with
that
water.
was Brooklyn days. He's a changed coach now. But again, he did nothing spectacular with the offensive defensive schemes. He did nothing really with putting players in the right situation. Again, the whole thing with Thon Maker telling him to shoot more mid-range jumpers, which makes no sense because I think there's like a 3-point differential between Thon Maker's mid-range jumpers to his threes, and we all know 3's bigger than 2. Apparently, Jason Kidd didn't get that memo. But again, he mismanaged the players on the court. Again, he mismanaged putting Giannis as point guard. Didn't put him in a lot of pick and roll situations. Didn't also use him and Bledsoe in the right way, putting them in more pick and roll situations. Using Giannis as the guy setting the picks because again, this is a guy that's 6'11", a freak of nature. We know this. And again, we're not doubting that it was the wrong time or at least wrong decision to fire Jason Kidd. Again, I think you made a great point there, Ricky. You get 3 years with this new head coach and Giannis together to get them to bond and possibly, at least mend that relationship over the next 3 years. But the real question is, who will be that next coach? Is there a guy that really sticks out there, Dave, that you think is going to be a perfect fit for Milwaukee? Obviously, Fizdale's been mentioned. Is there a young guy that you're looking at? I mean, obviously, the pop tree's been well. Is there a guy out there in your mind that fits well?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to run through a couple of them because it turns into the, what direction do you want to take the team? And Fizdale would be interesting just because he, got a small chance to work with the Grizzlies, and we saw what he could do with some defensive guys out there. We always vaunt, this Milwaukee team for their wingspan, team wingspan, and what they could potentially do with that athleticism and that length out there, and have yet to actually succeed at. So that might be interesting. The thing that I kind of like is Blatt, but I don't think he's going to come back to the NBA. I think he would be a great fit because it's basically the job he wanted and was promised in Cleveland before LeBron came back. It was here's a young team with a ton of promise and a kid with superstar potential. Take over, guide this team, get them to play the fundamentals correctly, and the rest is going to line up for you. That seems like it would work out great. I just don't see him being convinced to come back to the NBA after being thrown under a bus in a winning season from the Cavs. So then it turns into, can you pull somebody out from the pop tree? Messina, I can never get his name right. The primary assistant coach to Pop. The name is killing me. It's something with an M.
Messina or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Sure.
He's probably not going to leave. That's my assumption. I don't see him going away because you don't know how long Pop's got left, and the Spurs is a prime job. I would probably hold out if I were him for that role. I mean, you've got, 2-3 years Pop tops?
Well, we have no idea where Popovich stands. But I mean, most likely Pop is pretty much
he's
handling.
Yeah.
He's going to move to a front office job sooner rather than later.
Exactly. So that's why I'm like, I think that's probably out of sight. I think you're probably looking, Fizdale's your primary, Blatt probably not going to get him to come back. So I'm looking at go for somebody young, go for somebody who maybe hasn't had a chance to vet themselves because you do have a little bit of time to play with this because, like Ricky said, I think I agree with you actually. They don't rush something this season because bringing in a new head coach mid-season is hard because he has his own ideals. He has his own system. He has his own kind of regiments that he wants things to run, how he wants things to run. And if you try to change shit mid-season, they're not going to be playing smoothly by playoff basketball, which this team has every right to be a playoff team.
Yeah, and you also got to look. I mean, are you going to bring in a former player to know the struggles of Giannis and just know the struggles of being an NBA player? I mean, Jason Kidd obviously was able to bond with him because he had that prior knowledge of being a player. People throw out Van Gundy's name, Jeff Van Gundy.
Van Gundy would be
interesting. It's not happening. Come on, he's not moving away from ESPN.
Just to get him off of ESPN and his rants.
Well, and he's also literally the exact opposite of what you said. A young guy who has been who's been around the game. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy hasn't coached in forever,
right.
and also he's not a young guy. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy's an old man complaining and yelling at clouds.
I think you look to college, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, and you can look to college. You can look to Shaka Smart. Recently fired Rick Pitino as well. Definitely not a young guy, but you can at least look if you're looking to college. The guys that I'm looking at though. You obviously look at Jerry Stackhouse out in the G League for Toronto.
I like Jerry.
He's young, up and coming. Has been getting the experience. One thing with Jason Kidd, he didn't have experience at being a coach. He was just thrown right into being a coach.
Jerry Stackhouse and young, and my mind just doesn't go back because I remember his end of his playing days and how old and slow he was.
He's like 43, 45, 44, around there. So, I mean, he's still young. And at least
he's only a couple years older
wise.
than the Jet. That's fine.
Yeah, and he's also young, at least in the standpoint of being a coach.
Totally agree.
There's also Sam Cassell, who's been an assistant coach since he's left the league in 2009, working with Doc, working with the Wizards as well.
Yeah.
So I like those two guys as former players, and I think the one that I really like is Fizdale. You want to bring defense to this team, a team that obviously has the wingspan, the speed, the athleticism to be a great defensive team. Bring in David Fizdale because he did wonders with the Memphis Grizzlies. I think at least defensively, if you want that change, Fizdale is a no-nonsense coach. He's a guy that has at least bonded with players before.
That's the question.
The first season he did.
I was going to say that's the question: is how much do you give credit How much do you credit Fizdale for what Jaeger had put together? How much do you credit Fizdale for his breakup basically with Marc Gasol?
Well, I blame Marc Gasol entirely for that. I don't think it was Fizdale's fault.
Why is that?
I feel like with the Grizzlies, I know this isn't Grizzlies, but get rid of Gasol, don't get rid of Fizdale because the only person he was having a problem with was Gasol.
But also Fizdale seems like a no-nonsense coach where he's not going to be buddy-buddy with these players. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's the guy that Jaeger's going to be. So, I mean, or not Jaeger, I'm sorry, that Fizdale's going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if it's all blamed on Marc Gasol here.
Yeah, I get that was a direction of the team in the future, and they were still saying, but if Conley comes back, we're a fucking, playoff team again. Nah.
Yeah. Well, and there's also just, lackluster moves. There's just bad, movements there. At least in Memphis, Chris Wallace hasn't done a great job being the GM there. But I think if you're going to go in the direction of a coach, you're going to go young, and you're at least going to either go with Fizdale, who was very young at least in his coaching game and had some promise in his first. Obviously had a really hard flame out there in Memphis, or you're going to go with a guy who has experience as an assistant, which Jason Kidd didn't have. And get a guy like Sam Cassell or Jerry Stackhouse. Those are the three minds at least that come to me.
I've got three, one from each of a different kind of feather. The first one, former player, like you said, Jerry Stackhouse. Don't have to say any more about that. You said enough on it. If you want to go the route of Boston, though, let's get a coach from college. What about someone who, and I believe he's a Milwaukee guy, Tony Bennett with Virginia. I don't know if he would leave Virginia, but that would be a coach that could come in. Being from Milwaukee could be one of those, let's rally behind one of our guys.
Well, and
he's had success with the Cavaliers in Virginia or at Virginia.
Well, he's also got Malcolm Brogdon on the team.
Yeah, that too. The one that I'm looking at, though, and I want to ask you what you guys think. First off, Milwaukee is not afraid to make a splash.
Yep.
This is also someone who comes from a pop tree. This is also someone who the Bucks interviewed for their general manager job over the summer. What about Becky Hammon? What about making the first female head coach? That would be your splash. Someone from the pop tree who's gaining respect in that locker room.
Yeah.
And they've already interviewed her for a different position. So you pretty much know her and could get to interview her again on the actual position that she would be more comfortable in.
What do you think about the first woman head coach?
I think it'd be awesome. I just don't know if she is ready yet. I know she's had some duties with them. Obviously, she was coming along as talent management, basically for them from a coaching staff perspective, and then got to coach some of the summer league games. And she's always on the bench with them, talking with Popley. She's definitely entrenched in it. I just don't know if she is ready yet to coach a team And the big thing is like it's crossing that barrier. It's being the first of something, and you really want them to be successful. It's kind of like Jackie Robinson's style. It's as big to that like movement of equality as we're getting in basketball. Like that's the next big step for the sport, and that's kind of what scares me. Like if you whiff on this, and it shouldn't be, but like the general idea is, oh, clearly this is a sign that women shouldn't coach, which is wrong. But you have to be aware of that mindset from the general population of people who are just ignorant fans. So like I want it to be a hit, and I don't know if this is like the perfect situation for her. I think Milwaukee being not media central is awesome. I think that one will be a huge help to her. I just don't know if she's ready to coach a team. But if it is going to be a team, having a young team like Milwaukee would be great.
I think
like
she said, like this would be the perfect situation
this seems
for
like
her.
a good situation. I just don't know if she's ready to coach a team yet. Outright.
The one thing that I just worry about is the fact that there's going to be so much pressure, at least making sure Giannis stays. And again, you're going to have a lot of talent on that team for her to work with. And again, she's getting high praise from Pop. She was a very smart player as well when she was playing in WNBA. The one thing though is that there's going to be so much pressure, and then also right now as an assistant coach, she has one of the most respected head coaches above her in Greg Popovich. So, if players aren't getting along, you have Pop to rely on. And again, I'm not trying to, downplay what Becky Hammon does, but again, managing a locker room, that's going to be one of the biggest things. I think, X's and O's wise, she has the experience from Pop. She has the experience for her playing days. I think she's going to be fine with that. I think at least, putting players in the right situation on the court, I think she's going to do a great job with that when or if she ever gets the chance to do so. Yeah. But it's really going to be about locker management and really how are these guys going to connect with a woman head coach, and will they be able to at least listen to her? Because these guys have grown up with men coaches from their early days, AAU days, high school days, college days, NBA days. I mean, these guys have been around a male environment their whole life, and then welcoming in the first ever women's coach, and then also trying to also be a playoff team, putting a lot of high pressure situations into that team. I think it's just going to be a lot that can go wrong. Not saying that it can't go right, but there's a lot that could go wrong in that situation. And I feel like if I was Milwaukee, I don't think it's the right place. I would rather give Becky Hammon the more of the kind of skeleton of a team and let her build up with players that are coming into the situation, players that are going to know that what they're walking into, rather than guys like Giannis, guys like Jabari Parker, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, guys that have been in Milwaukee and entrenched in that situation for so long, expecting something like Jason Kidd. And again, she's a former player, but again, it was WNBA, not NBA. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to relate to her, at least, with her not being a player in the NBA. And also, there's still that long-held belief, and I think, we're trying to walk around it right now, that, guys are going to have a hard time accepting that it's a woman being the head coach.
Here's how I see it. The first part on that last part, because both of you kind of touched on it, the way I kind of relate it to is what we just saw in the presidential election, where there were some people that were like, you asked them, are we ready for a female president? Hell yeah. Do you want Hillary to be at? Oh, well, no, I don't want that to happen. Like, there were people that believe that.
No,
I know. And I don't think she falls into that category. What I do like about this, if they said, you know what, Becky Hammon's our person, that's who we're going to go with as our head coach, I actually like that she was given the head coaching duties during the Las Vegas League and led that young team, a rookie team, to a championship, because this team is a younger roster. I don't think this Bucks team, if she came in, I don't think it's like, well, you're a girl, I'm not going to listen to you. I think that these players...
Well, we don't know that. I mean, the thing is...
I'm saying what I think. I don't think they would have a problem with it. But, of course, we're not in the locker room. We don't know what's going on in there.
And again, it's an 82-game season plus playoffs. And, again, I think that Summer League, where these guys are trying to make a roster, is completely different than trying to make the playoffs.
Oh, it's...
And yes, she's been in that situation before with being with Popovich, I think, since 2014, and being with the Spurs team making the playoffs consistently. But, again, she has Greg Popovich with her. Greg Popovich has been the entrenched coach there for over 20 years. He is one of the most, if not the most respected head coach in the league. And we'll talk about it a little bit earlier. But again, it's just something where I think it's going to be a situation when a woman head coach steps in, and if it's Becky, that it's going to be more of a team that you're going to give her players and draft players to come into that situation rather
so you're
than
thinking a rebuild is where you want her at?
I would rather. I think it would rather be a rebuild
that.
because these players need to walk in and know what they're getting rather than these players that have been in Milwaukee, like Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Chris Middleton, like Eric Bledsoe. You throw him into just because he's been there for a couple seasons, like Malcolm Brogdon. These guys have certain expectations. I think that is going to be at least changed, and it's going to take a while for that team to gel with any coach. And then also, if they're not able to accept having a woman coach right away, then it's going to mess with that chemistry and mess with the locker room.
And that's the big problem. Or to me, I'm on the other side of that. I don't want Becky Hammon to have a rebuild job. I think this would be one of the best situations she could come into because you have an established team. You can come in here and say, you know what, I don't have to rebuild anything. I've got a team. I know my X's and O's because I've been under Popovich. I'm going to use what he has taught me and my own experience to do what I want to do here. And really, like, the thing I look at is if, let's say, any player was like, I don't know how I feel about this, a woman is my coach. Well, that's your problem, not Becky Hammon's problem.
No, I agree, but it's will that player be able to get over that?
Then you get rid of that player.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if it's Giannis? What if it's your star? Like, again, I'm not trying to be like...
You're playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I get it.
No, it's not even devil's advocate. This is just something that I don't know if it would work out.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not... I don't have any problems with a woman being a head coach. It's just, for strictly Milwaukee, I don't know if it's the right fit because this is going to be a playoff team. This is going to be a team in high-pressure situations. This is a team that just lost their coach, a coach that they very well liked, and then you're bringing in a coach that might just not be able to connect with the player just because of the way that they were born. I mean, it's nothing that it just might be hard for these players to accept with the way they've been raised, with the way that they've been brought up, with expecting a man head coach throughout grammar school, AAU, high school, college, NBA, etc. I mean, these guys have certain expectations, and if you violate those expectations, it just might be a disaster. Whether it's Becky Hammon's a fantastic head coach, and if she's going to become a head coach, or if it's just any player in general.
Let me ask this, and Dave, maybe you'll be the first one to answer because you look like you want to talk. Any coach, Becky Hammon, Fizdale, Bennett, Stackhouse, any coach that comes in, is Milwaukee an automatic threat to win the Eastern Conference?
No,
in your mind,
they still don't have a center.
And that's the thing that I look to.
The offseason, but then again, the offseason they can address that issue.
Well, that's the thing. Is
DeAndre's going to be a free agent.
We heard rumors of Kidd actually trying to trade Jabari before the injury, and that gives you concern, right? Because it's like that was one of their young core building pieces, and if he's willing to ship somebody like Jabari out to, help the team potentially, who knows what for at this point? But it was just a rumor. It turns into one of those things where it's like, yes, they're a very good team. Yes, they're probably, maybe the 5th best team, 6th best team in the East. It just turns to I don't think they're ready to compete against the Celtics, the Raptors, the Cavaliers even.
We do have to wrap this up, but again, we don't know what the situation with the Cavs next year will be, obviously, because LeBron's free agency is looming. Real quick, who do you think is going to be the head coach of the Bucks?
I'm going to go Becky Hammon.
When the league starts.
Why is that? I'm going to go Becky Hammon because, like I said, she's a coach that I believe could come in and work with this young talent. I could see Milwaukee going out there and making a splash. They've interviewed her before, so I kind of feel like they'll be comfortable. She wasn't a finalist
for that job,
but they still interviewed her, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And she'd be much more. She'd be much better as a coach than a general manager.
Potentially, we don't. That's the thing
because she's never had that experience as a GM.
I think the split duties, the way Pop has broken it down amongst his assistant coaches, like she needs more time and to move up that rank, maybe 1 or 2 more spots to get more entrenched in the NBA game. And that's all I'm thinking. It's just she needs a little more experience, a little more time under Pop to get there. That's why I'm thinking we're going somebody out of college, somebody who is ambitious, young, and who can connect with the talent, the age group of the talent specifically.
Like a Tony Bennett.
Somebody
out of Virginia,
potentially that, yeah. So that's I'm going wild card out of college. I do like Becky. I just think 1 to probably 2 more years under Pop and absorb some more of those duties across the court.
Well, and the one thing too, we're talking about Tony Bennett. He's been in coaching since 1993. You look at Fizdale. Fizdale's been around for so long. Sam Cassell has been around the league since the 90s.
I mean,
Stackhouse
you even got
as well.
Messina, who Dave mentioned earlier from that same Spurs.
But the thing is that those guys have had so much experience in the NBA.
Yeah.
And again, Becky's going to have that transition from, and she's been going through that transition since 2014, of going from WNBA to the NBA. But again, it's going to be a ton of responsibility to take a playoff team and with high expectations and a tough locker room and really entrench yourself as this is the leader of the team. I'm not saying that she is incapable. I'm not saying that she is not qualified. I'm just saying that these guys that have been like Tony Bennett, Messina, Stackhouse,
more
Sam
proven
Cassell,
commodities. Is that where you're going?
Well, more proven commodities, and then also they are relatable to these guys because they, some of them have been former players, and then also they can say, hey, this is what I've done as a head coach, a college coach, or this is who I've worked under for 10 to 15 years in the example of Fizdale or Messina. Again, I think that if there's a female head coach waiting in the wings, Becky Hammon's the one. Yeah. I just don't know if, like Dave said, if it's the right time, and I don't think it's the right fit. But that's just my thoughts. Let us know down in the comments, especially you Bucks fans, who you think the next head coach.
Did you give who your right fit was?
I was going to go Tony Bennett or Sam Cassell because he's got ties from Milwaukee. But anyways, we're going to wrap this up. Let us know who you think the head coach of the next Milwaukee Bucks head coach is. The time is running out on the camera. Let us know who you think the next head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks will be in the comments below.